Our next speaker, former school board member, now mayor of San Leandro, Steve Cassidy. Thank you very much for being here. Give it up for Mayor Cassidy.
Thank you, Tom. And I want to thank everyone that's out here today to speak out against the budget cuts and to put pressure on our legislature to develop solutions to put more funds into our schools and not harm our children. It's been year after year of cuts, and we can't afford any further. My daughters, Maeve and Fiona, they attend public school, and they're receiving excellent education from dedicated and caring teachers. I want to thank all the teachers that are here today for what you've given to my family, what you're giving to all the children of San Leandro. You know, my wife was a teacher for a number of years. I saw how hard that she worked and how dedicated she was. And it pains me when I see people in our society attack teachers. It's so misplaced and it's so wrong. And, you know, I'm so glad that we're here today speaking out against that. The sad thing, however, is that, you know, the education of our children is not shaped solely by the parents, the teachers, the principal, the administrators, and other folks in our school system. Decisions in Sacramento greatly impact our schools and our students. And the reason why is that California has a centralized system for funding public education. The governor and the legislature, not local school boards, determine the amount of property taxes and state aid that each school district receives. And so when the state's in a budget decline, then they cut back on our schools. But a child doesn't have endless opportunities to have an education. A child only has one time to have an education, and you can't cut absolutely necessary resources for that child's education simply because that year you're in a budget deficit. You need to look at other solutions. And even when California was in a better shape economically, we were still underspending on our schools. We were at the very bottom of all states in spending per student, and we still are. West Virginia, Louisiana, and Mississippi all outrank California in spending per student. And what does that mean on a practical level? Well, the 6.3 million children in California public schools attend some of the most crowded classrooms and have the fewest counselors and librarians in the nation. I have the similar experience that Morgan McRose spoke about with her child. My child, Fiona, started kindergarten, I guess it was 3 years ago, in a classroom of total of 20 students. Next year, she'll be in a classroom with 32. And will there be specialists? Will there be music teachers, PE teachers, art teachers in her classroom? I don't know. You know, will we have counselors in our middle schools and our high school? Will we have librarians? We've already suffered so many cuts, and yet more are ahead of us if we don't act, if the state doesn't change. A couple years ago, I was speaking to a person about the budget cuts that were coming then from Governor Schwarzenegger and about the impact it was going to have on our schools. And he said to me, well, the governor can't manufacture money. And my response to him was, yes, but he can manufacture leadership. I mean, when Governor Schwarzenegger took office, he cut the vehicle license fee, and that created a $4 billion hole in our state budget on an annual basis. I mean, he was more inspired to invest in tax cuts than investing in our children. And what's sad is even though we have a Democratic governor and a Democratic-controlled legislature, under our state constitution, we have the tyranny of the minority. A small group of legislatures can hold hostage the future of our children. That's not leadership. And, you know, these are the same folks that I have no doubt that are sending their kids to private school, where they're spending $20,000, $25,000 a year. Yet here in San Leandro, our spending per student's under $8,000 a year. And that includes all the funding that we provide for special needs kids that the private schools will never accept. Our society will not flourish If only the children of the rich attend schools that offer quality teaching in small classrooms, have arts and music programs, teach foreign languages, offer sports, and access to technology, California's future depends on our public schools receiving the resources necessary to succeed. And so I encourage all of you that are going up to Sacramento next week to speak out. I encourage you to talk to your friends that live in other parts of the state with Republican legislatures to get them involved. Let them fear their own constituents. Let them feel the heat. All we need are a few votes to switch, and then we can have a budget that would still have cuts, but it would not be an all-cuts budget. We'd be so much farther ahead. And at the same time, I want to say, as the mayor of San Leandro, you have the support at City Hall. We care for you. We care for our schools. We want to help you get greater resources. This community has come together in the past to pass bond measures to improve our facilities. We've done tremendous work. Just look at the new Arts Education Center that was dedicated recently. And of course, the Korematsu campus down the street. We've passed 3 bond measures since 1997, bringing in tens of millions, over hundreds of millions of dollars to our schools. Well, now it's time for us as a community to step forward once again, and this time not invest in our facilities for our schools. Let's invest in our teachers and our programs for our schools by adopting a parcel tax for San Leandro. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, the parcel tax is a way that local school districts can generate revenue that Sacramento can't take away. It's frankly the only tool that local school districts have to raise substantial funds for operating expenses. And again, the money that we get isn't factored in by Sacramento in terms of how much state aid we get on an annual basis. So it's purely a win-win solution for our schools. And I want you to know that I encourage the school board and the administration and the teachers, our CSA folks, to come to the table and start discussing it. This takes time. It can't be done just in a matter of a few months. It's going to require a lot of analysis. It's going to require reaching out to different constituencies here in our community. And the reality is it can't be done until 2012, November, when we have our next election. But that also gives you time to work on it and to build the support and to build the awareness. And if you do come forward, I want you to know you will have the full support of the mayor's office for a parcel tax measure. There will be no equivocation. There will be no delay. The school board adopts it. I'll endorse it the very next day. And I'm sure we'll get the support from the full council as well. Councilmember Peralez stands here with me, and on this issue we see eye to eye, and we're 100% in support of it. Because we know that you can't have a strong city without strong schools. And we appreciate that what we received in our education, and we realize that the children of California today are not getting what I received, what Jim received when we were going through schools. That needs to change. And if we won't get the leadership from Sacramento, let's provide the leadership for our students here in San Leandro. Let's come together as a community in a way that we've never had, and let's get greater resources for our schools. Thank you very much.